Hi, welcome to Box on the Box Rock and Solo, Bot Brack for short, I'm over Box. So today I'm going to look at bands that pulled off that incredible feat of doing two classic albums, two great albums in the same year. So typically when this happens, a band will record one album at the end of the previous year, will come out earlier the next year, and then they'll record the other album 6-7 months later, will come out at the end of the year. So a few bands have done this, but I'm going to look at some choices that people could pick, and some bands, you could say actually done it double, but they're not necessarily bands I'm into. But so I was kind of torn on Deep Purple, Burn, and Stormbringer. I think Burn's like amazing album. I think Stormbringer is good. The title track, Soldier of Fortune, is brilliant, and Gypsy's excellent. Lady Double Dealer, I think. So I think that's a good album, Stormbringer, but it's not quite as fondly remembered as Burn. But I do think Purple, credit to them. That's no mean feat to do that. I was looking at my notes here, and then Rush, Fly By Night, and Caress of Steel, but both come out in '75. I mean, they're interesting those because Fly By Night has the sort of first kind of progressive song by Rush on, which is by Her and the Snow Dog, and a very heavy anthem. I think that's a good record, but listening to it recently, I think it's got 3 or 4 really top tracks. Caress of Steel, I can't get away with, but it's quite an important album for Rush because it really flopped. But it was like, do we pursue this direction or do we go another way? And even though Caress of Steel flopped, it's only got 5 tracks on it, and it's got like a big conceptual piece. And they decided, no, we're going to keep doing this, and they did 2112. So it's an important Rush album in the canon. So again, producing a lot of music and some really good music there, but not classics for me. Sweet as well. I mean, I was torn this against Sweet FA, Sweet Fred Adams, Desolation Boulevard, both '74. Although I really like this album, they're kind of a mixture of kind of singles and what they're doing, Chin and Chapman, and what they're doing themselves. And I feel that the 2 albums after that are kind of more albumy. But again, really great work by the Sweet. Some will disagree with that. I'm not sort of putting them there. AC/DC as well. Tenuous, you've got the international version of High Voltage and Dirty Deeds. Of course, the international version of High Voltage is basically TNT with a couple of switched tracks. So AC/DC didn't technically record that it was recorded in '75, but it came out in '76. But it was kind of done and dusted before that. Obviously, Dirty Deeds, although I love Bon, that's actually my least favourite Bon era album. So a lot of people might pick that, and I wouldn't dispute that. Band I'm not massively into in 1971, Yes do the Yes album, Fragile. Obviously, Close to the Edge is the signature Yes album, I think. But leading up to that, they did 2 really important albums in their catalogue. Of course, you get the Beatles as well. I mean, the Beatles did 2 great albums in '65, Help and Rubber Soul. '67, they did Magical Mystery Tour and Sgt. Pepper's. Of course, Sgt. Pepper's always gets wheeled out. This Magical Mystery Tour gets overlooked a bit. There's some great music on that, the title track, Arm the Walrus, Fool on the Hill, stuff like that. And then Kiss, again, I'm not a Kiss fan, but in '74 they do, I think it's the debut album, and was it Hotter Than Hell, which got some top tracks on. It was Destroying Rock and Roll Over by '76, I think. I think a lot of fans would pick those, certainly Destroyer as a pick of the bunch. It's weird, Kiss did a lot of albums and then eventually stopped doing a lot, in their last 30 years, they only did 3 albums. Okay, so what I've done is I've picked out 10 bands, 10 doublers, and then I've got like one wildfire choice. Not in any order. An obvious one for me is Judas Priest, Stained Class, and Killing Machine. People know I'm a massive Priest fan. I think Stained Class, it's interesting. That's the first album we bring out, not the double kick drums, but kind of making more of a thing of that. Ian Hill switched to pick on the bass. There's an attempt to kind of get a more metallic sound. The lyrics become more sci-fi infused. It has the classic Priest logo, and it's got a more metal imagery about it. I think it's a very consistent record. when your sort of weakest tracks finish side one, Eternal Invader and Hero's End, you know you're on to a great record. Killing Machine's totally different. I think one of the reasons why they probably managed to pull it off is with Killing Machine, they write a lot shorter songs. It obviously picks up on the influence of things like DC and Halo and what's happening in rock. I think that album's less sort of focused, a bit more of a kind of potpourri, but it's chock-a-block full of great tracks. Delivery Goes Rock Forever, Hellbent for Leather, Burning Up, really good deep cuts, the title track, Before the Dawn, which I've just discovered recently has actually got quite a lot of streams on Spotify. So, Priest, probably one of the best attempts, maybe the best attempt for me by any metal band, and two very differing albums that offer the pathway for heavy metal. I think those two albums, if you're a new Wobbum, going to be a new Wobbum band, you're probably looking and very influenced by those two albums in particular, and then into 79, of course, and the imagery as well. And then an interesting one is Alice Cooper band, so Love It to Death. I only checked these out recently. Love It to Death and Killer. Love It to Death is the first big commercial success for the Alice Cooper band. You've got I'm 18, the big hit on that. The excellent Black Juju, which is 9 minutes and 14 seconds. So they're interesting because they're bringing this heaviness with the guitars, but this kind of this dark sort of gothicness, a bit kind of Doorsy at times, and then that's on the Killer album as well. This is actually my favourite one, Halo Flies, excellent track on that, and again just really dark and brooding. Really amazing work. Obviously people just know Alice Cooper now as this kind of solo artist, the character Alice Cooper, but the original Alice Cooper band, very influential in metal. Saxon, Wheels of Steel and Strong Arm of the Law, the only new Wobbum band to pull this off. There's a couple of other bands had albums out in the same year, I think. But Wheels of Steel needs no introduction. What's the surprising thing is a lot of people prefer Strong Arm. I mean, I prefer Wheels of Steel, but I can see Strong Arm's kind of more consistent. But it's hard to pick and choose between. In some ways, Amazing Saxon won't be a really, when you consider that they pulled this off. They were very popular in the UK and in Europe and never quite broke the States. But just two great records that really capture that whole year, really, with us still coming out and right at the end of the Strong Arm of the Law. Just brilliant. And then Thin Lizzy, Jailbreak and Johnny the Fox. So there may be a bit of contention with this. Jailbreak's always kind of wheeled out as the definitive classic. I actually think Johnny the Fox is better. Jailbreak's got that classic cover. You've got those 5 tracks on it that are on the Live and Dangerous album, and really good tracks like Angel from the Coast, Romeo and the Lonely Girl. Johnny the Fox, just very consistent for me. A lovely spread of songs, a lovely mix. Massacre being the choice, and probably a good, better sounding record to me. Probably lacked sort of like the sort of definitive hit type track apart from Don't Believe a Word. But Lizzie, Phil, brilliant. Of course, Led Zeppelin 1 and 2, two hugely influential albums. Led Zeppelin 1 coming out right at the start of 69, Zepp 2, The Brown Bomber at the end. I think these albums, more than any other, are the foundations of heavy music. So for that, I mean hard rock, heavier blues rock, and heavy metal. Sorry, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, I know you don't like that, but if you listen to a track like Dazed and Confused, a whole lot of the power of the drumming, the types of riffing they use, and then when you get Sabbath, you can hear that sound. The difference is your heavy rock and hard rock keep the bluesy element, particularly heavy rock like Whitesnake. Heavy metal eventually dispenses with the blues DNA. As Scott Ian always points out, British Steel is an example of that. Amazing. And that brings us ready to Black Sabbath and Paranoid again. Black Sabbath coming out February. I think Paranoid's October. I think what's interesting about that is Black Sabbath's a classic album because it's the first metal album, but I think it's a game of two halves. That I think there's 4 really brilliant tracks, and the other ones maybe not as good, but I still like it. Paranoid a lot more consistent. Probably hear that too many times. Those tracks of them like War Pigs and Paranoid, but pretty amazing. Sabbath just pretty much across those 2 albums in less than the space of the year. They build the kingdom. You get Hendrix, I Experience, Axis of Boulder's Love, both 67. I actually prefer Axis of Boulder's Love, but these albums are chocker with Hendrix classics. Although Electric Ladyland's a great record, it's quite expansive with it being double. These two albums are such a good listen. Old tracks like Castle Made of Sand would be a deep cut I really like off Axis, which has some great Hendrix lyrics. But yeah, amazing time at that period in the 60s where bands were just rattling off classic after classic album. Then we've got Queen 2 into Sheer Heart Attack. It's both 1974. Queen 2, very influential in metal. It's got this white side, it's black side, it's a black side and white side. Quite heavy, a lot of Tolkien-esque lyrics with Ogre Battle. Queen very much playing the hard rock heavy metal card, and nothing like the Queen of the 80s. It's got the classic Queen sort of image of the four faces, which was used for the Bohemian Rhapsody album. Sheer Heart Attack, obviously Queen 2, you might be aware, has got a lot of multi-track and a lot of bouncing down, so unfortunately it kind of sounds quite dull in a way due to the tape be losing its coating. When you rub over stuff, they would you lose a lot of frequency. So I think Sheer Heart Attack's a better sounding album. Some really great tracks on that, like She Makes Me, Lap of Gods, and of course Stone Cold Crazy. So yeah, two of the very best, or if not the best, Queen albums there. And then we've got Motorhead with Overkill and Bomber, so both early 79, late 79. Some people might disagree with the conclusion of Bomber, but Bomber had Bomber on, had Stone Dead Forever, one of the very best Motorhead tracks. Great cover as well. And coming in that era with Overkill, they had, I think on Top of the Pops, is that just the year before 1980, where you get Rainbow on Top of the Pops, you get Motorhead, you get DC, and heavy music's getting the charts, and then of course it will explode in 1980. So those are my choices there. My wildcard choice is technically not the same band or artist. It's two different projects he did in 1987, but I love them. And it's Tony McAlpine, the guitarist. So 1987, early 87, Tony McAlpine did an album called Mars Project Driver, with Rob Rock on vocals, Rudy Zaza on bass, Tom Elder on drums. Production stinking on it, but it's really good melodic power metal. Rob Rock's an excellent singer. The songwriting's really good on it, and the guitar solo is incredible. And then at the end of 87, towards the end of the summer, he releases the Maximum Security album, which is, in my opinion, the greatest heavy metal shred instrumental guitar album ever. Just chocker full of great tracks. Side one in particular is stunning. So I think Tony pulled off a bit of a miracle there. Cheers, thanks. So I'll see you again soon, and remember, share and subscribe.